The gavel had barely touched the bench when the slap echoed through the silent courtroom. Gasps rippled through the gallery. But the officer who had just struck the unassuming woman before him barely flinched. To him, she was just another face in the room, another figure to be dismissed with the force of his authority. What he didn't know, what he couldn't possibly have anticipated, was that she was no ordinary spectator. She was the judge, and in the next 4 minutes, his entire world would begin to collapse. Seaview had always worn its history like a shroud, nestled along the southern coast. It was a city of contradictions, towering skyscrapers beside crumbling tenements, pristine parks shadowed by unspoken divides. The city's police force, much like its streets, was split between those who believed in justice and those who bent it to their will. Judge Ellen Raleigh Caldwell knew this better than most. At 63, she carried herself with a quiet authority. Her steel gray hair always swept into a perfect twist, her gaze sharp enough to pierce through the lies people thought they could hide behind. She had spent her career navigating the tangled web of Seaview's legal system, first as a public defender, then as a prosecutor, and now as its most formidable judge. She had seen corruption fester in the ranks of the city's police force, had watched as officers like Captain Ross Keenan wielded their power like a weapon, believing themselves untouchable. But today, in a moment of unchecked arrogance, Keenan would make the mistake that shattered everything. It had started as a routine hearing. A young man, barely 17, was brought in on charges of vandalism. His public defender barely had time to open his folder before Keenan, a towering man with the air of someone used to getting his way, barked at the judge's clerk. "Let's get this over with. I've got better things to do." Judge Caldwell had just stepped inside. She wasn't wearing her robe yet, just her usual dark blazer. And for a fleeting moment, Keenan mistook her for a clerk. When she didn't move fast enough, when she didn't cower the way he was used to, his hand came up before he even thought about it. The slap landed clean across her cheek. The courtroom froze. Then, Caldwell straightened. Slowly, deliberately, the energy in the room shifted as realization dawned, spreading like wildfire across the stunned faces around them. Keenan's expression flickered between confusion and dawning horror. "Who the hell do you think you, Sergeant Keenan?" Caldwell interrupted, her voice a blade honed on decades of discipline. "Did you just strike a sitting judge in open court?" Keenan's jaw worked as he searched for a way out. "I didn't know. That's not what I asked." She cut him off. Yes or no? For the first time, Keenan seemed to sense the trap snapping shut around him. Yes. The air in the courtroom tightened, charged like the seconds before a storm breaks. The courtroom security cameras had caught everything. The bailiff, normally a statue of indifference, didn't move to protect Keenan. Instead, his hand rested near his holster, not as a threat, but as a statement. Judge Caldwell turned to her clerk. "Miss Hendricks, please enter into the record that Sergeant Keenan has just committed assault against a sitting judge in a courtroom full of witnesses and under active surveillance." The typing of the clerk's keyboard sounded deafening in the silence. Keenan scoffed, trying to regain control. "This is ridiculous. You're overreacting." "No, Sergeant," Caldwell said, stepping onto the bench. "For once, the right person is facing consequences." Within the hour, Internal Affairs had been contacted. By the end of the day, the Chief of Police's office had released a statement condemning the regrettable incident. But it was too late. Caldwell had seen to that. By the time she reached her chambers, she already had calls from journalists, civil rights attorneys, and a contact from the Attorney General's office. But there was something bigger here. Caldwell's gut told her this wasn't just about one man's arrogance. So she dug, and what she found was a web of corruption stretching deep into Seaview's justice system. Keenan wasn't just an officer with a history of excessive force, he was a protected asset. Prosecutors had buried evidence. Cases had been dismissed under mysterious circumstances, and body cam footage had vanished with alarming frequency. And the name that kept surfacing alongside Keenan's, District Attorney Daniel Harrow. The deeper she went, the more disturbing the pattern became. The police union funneled money into political campaigns, ensuring loyalty. Internal complaints against Keenan had been quietly settled. A journalist who had started investigating months ago found dead under suspicious circumstances. Caldwell knew she was making enemies. The SUV parked outside her house late at night made that clear. The veiled threats from city officials confirmed it, but she had already lit the match. Now, she would see the fire burn. When Keenan was arrested, his silence was bought. But others, seeing the walls close in, started talking. Officers flipped. Prosecutors resigned. The mayor's office distanced itself. And when Caldwell took the stand at the judicial hearing, the room fell silent as she spoke. "We are not here because of one man's slap," she said, voice steady. "We are here because of what that slap revealed, a system built on fear, silence, and loyalty to power over truth." Keenan was sentenced. The Dow was forced to resign. The chief of police followed, and Caldwell. She handed in her own resignation, not in defeat, but in victory. "I lit a fire," she told reporters. "It is not for me to stand in its glow." Steve, you changed that year. Not overnight, not easily, but change came. The city learned that silence was complicity, that justice was only as strong as those willing to fight for it. And in a quiet office, overlooking the city, Judge Caldwell smiled, because for the first time in a long time, the right people were afraid, and for the first time, justice was louder than fear.